Welcome to another story made by Oracle 1. Echoes of the Carnival. The first sign of it came through the fog. Sarah had been driving for hours, miles of pine forest pressing in on both sides. Radio fading to static, GPS muttering to itself. She was trying to reach the highway again after missing a turn somewhere past Coldwater. But the fog had thickened, swallowing the road, the treetops, even the sky. It was past midnight now, and the air outside felt like wet cotton. She slowed the car as a shape emerged ahead, an old roadside sign, half choked with vines. Her headlights caught a peeling image of a grinning clown and the words barely visible beneath years of grime. Whispering Pines Carnival, Grand Reopening. August 17, 1958. She frowned. The wood was warped, riddled with holes. 1958. That was more than 60 years ago. There were no houses around here, no lights except her own. Yet as she looked past the sign, through the mist, she saw color, faded banners, a glint of metal, the faint outline of a Ferris wheel, unmoving but somehow upright. Her car idled. For a moment, logic told her to drive on, to find a motel, call her friend in the morning, get directions. But curiosity whispered differently. There shouldn't be anything this big out here. No one had mentioned a carnival near Coldwater. She pulled onto the gravel shoulder and stepped out. The air was colder than she expected. It smelled of damp hay, old oil, and faintly of caramelized sugar, like burnt candy. When she shut the car door, the sound was swallowed by the fog. The entrance gates loomed ahead, twin arches of rusted iron, still wrapped with a string of colored bulbs that looked like they died decades ago. She pushed one side, and the gate groaned open, the sound echoing far too long. Inside, the silence was heavy, expectant. Booths lined the gravel walkway, their canvas awnings drooping. A carousel stood off to the right, its horses frozen mid-gallop, their eyes wide and glassy, chipped paint exposing gray wood beneath. Somewhere in the distance, something creaked slowly back and forth. A sign in the wind, maybe. Sarah walked deeper in. The fog moved oddly here. It clung to the ground, coiling around her ankles like smoke. Her phone flashlight picked up flashes of color. An abandoned popcorn cart with its wheels half buried, a toppled ring toss stand, dozens of prizes lying face down in the dirt, stuffed bears with their seams split open, tiny glass swans covered in grime. One booth caught her attention. The sign above it, barely readable, said, "Win your fortune." Inside were shelves lined with odd objects, hand mirrors, porcelain dolls, a cracked crystal ball, even an antique pocket watch. She leaned closer. A small placard sat in front of them, its lettering ornate. "Choose a prize, and the carnival remembers you." She felt a prickle at the back of her neck. The fog made it hard to tell, but she thought she saw faint footprints leading up to the counter, fresh ones. Her phone battery warning flashed. She sighed and turned it off, pocketing it. The air seemed thicker without the light, pressing closer. She could almost hear faint music, calliope notes, slow and uneven, drifting through the fog. "Hello?" she called, half hoping no one answered. Something moved behind the carousel. She turned sharply. Nothing there. Only mist and the faint shimmer of water dripping from the horses' manes. Yet she was sure she'd heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate. She began backing toward the gate when she saw it. A small glass snow globe sitting on the booth counter she'd just left. She didn't remember it being there. Inside, tiny figures spun slowly. A miniature Ferris wheel, a few tents, even a little carousel. Someone had crafted it with unsettling detail. And inside the snow globe's glass, flakes weren't white, they were ash gray. Her reflection wavered across the surface. For a second, she thought she saw movement inside, one of the tiny carnival goers lifting its head. Her heart kicked. She blinked, and everything was still again. She picked it up. The base was brass, engraved with a swirling pattern. It was cold, much colder than the air. When she tilted it, she swore she heard faint laughter inside, like children playing far away. "Probably just broken," she muttered. But even as she said it, her voice sounded too loud, too alone. She slipped it into her jacket pocket. By the time she reached her car, the fog had thickened again, wrapping the vehicle in gray. The headlights flickered when she turned the key. The engine sputtered once, twice, and died. She tried again. Nothing. "Come on," she whispered. Only silence. When she looked up, she thought she saw movement at the carnival gate, a shape standing just beyond it. It was tall, indistinct in the mist, but she could make out the faint outline of a coat, maybe a hat. Watching her, she blinked, and the shape was gone. Her pulse hammered. She locked the doors, leaned back, and tried to steady her breath. She could wait until morning. Someone would come down the road. Maybe. Her phone had 1% battery left. No signal. She took out the snow globe again, half for distraction. The flakes inside were still drifting, slow and heavy. But this time, when she held it close, she realized the tiny Ferris wheel inside was moving. Not mechanically. No, it was turning on its own, the little metal cars swinging gently. Inside one of them sat a figure, a woman, head bowed, hair falling over her face. The figure wore a jacket just like hers. Sarah froze. Then the woman in the globe lifted her head and smiled. The globe slipped from Sarah's hands and cracked against the dashboard. The ash inside spilled out, not flakes but fine dust, black and oily, spreading across her fingers. She flung it away and scrambled out of the car, coughing. The fog was thicker now, almost solid, curling into her open door. Her headlights went dark, one after another. She could hear something faint beneath the silence, a whisper, rhythmic, like someone saying her name over and over from somewhere inside the carnival. "Sarah, Sarah." She turned back toward the gates. The lights that had been dead moments ago were flickering, strings of bulbs sputtering weakly to life. Red, blue, yellow. The Ferris wheel moved a fraction, creaking, its joints screaming after decades of stillness. The carnival was awake. The music started then, soft, off-key calliope notes spilling from nowhere and everywhere. It grew louder as she stepped through the gate again, her breath coming fast in the chill air. The carnival grounds were subtly different now. The stalls looked cleaner, straighter. The carousel horses gleamed faintly under the flickering lights. She spun around. The fog had sealed off the road behind her completely. It was just her, the carnival, and the endless white. Something brushed her hand. She looked down. One of the stuffed bears from the ring toss lay at her feet, its eyes replaced with buttons, its mouth stitched into a crooked smile. It hadn't been there before. She picked it up instinctively, and for a moment, the smell hit her, sweet rot and perfume, like something buried long ago. A voice drifted through the fog, feminine and low. "Welcome back." Sarah froze. "Who's there?" A figure emerged near the carousel, a woman in a tattered ringmaster's coat, one side of her face obscured by a cracked porcelain mask. Her eyes gleamed pale and glassy behind it. "We've been waiting," she said. "It's been such a long time since someone remembered us." I don't know what this place is," Sarah stammered. "My car broke down." The woman smiled thinly. "You took something that belonged to us." Sarah's stomach dropped. "The snow globe? Every object here remembers," the woman said softly. "Every trinket holds a soul. A piece of what was taken. You've opened the gates again." The carousel behind her began to move, the horses lurching into motion. Their eyes rolled white as they spun, their mouths opening to release low, groaning breaths. Sarah stumbled back. "What are you talking about?" But the woman was already gone, vanished between one blink and the next. Only her voice lingered. Once you take a piece of the carnival takes a piece of you. Sarah ran. Past the games, past the rusted rides, through the fog that seemed to twist around her. The laughter returned, high and echoing, like children hiding in the mist. She stumbled into what had once been the funhouse, its mirrors cracked and leaning. Inside, the air smelled of old grease paint and mildew. She gripped the railing, her flashlight beam trembling. Her reflection warped in every surface. One moment tall and thin, the next bloated and grinning. Her breath fogged the glass. Something moved behind her reflection. She spun, but the room was empty. Her reflection didn't move. It stood perfectly still, smiling faintly as her own face froze in horror. Then, it lifted a hand, slowly, deliberately, and pressed it against the other side of the mirror. A hairline crack spidered across the glass. Sarah backed away, shaking. No, this isn't real. The reflection tilted its head, and its eyes went black. The mirror shattered. She burst out into the open air, gasping. The music had changed. It was louder now, echoing through the fairgrounds, almost cheerful. Every booth was lit, every ride spinning, yet no people moved among them. The Ferris wheel turned smoothly, each car glowing faintly. And as it turned, she saw them. Figures seated in every car, motionless, heads bowed. Their skin looked waxen in the dim light. Some were missing pieces, hands, faces. The music wound down with a metallic screech. The Ferris wheel stopped. Every head turned toward her at once. She stumbled backward and hit something solid. A man stood behind her, a tall, gaunt figure in a striped suit, his smile painted on in permanent red. His eyes were blank glass, reflecting the lights. He tipped his hat. "Won a prize, did you?" His voice rasped, low and grinding. "You're our first guest in a long, long while." "I didn't mean to." He raised a hand, cutting her off. "Meaning doesn't matter. The carnival keeps what it's owed." Sarah's pulse hammered. "I'll put it back. The snow globe, all." "You already did." His grin widened, cracking the paint at his lips. "You broke it. You freed them." He leaned close. His breath smelled of burnt sugar and earth. "Now they need a place to stay." The lights went out. Only the Ferris wheel remained illuminated, spinning faster now, its creaks rising into a shrill wail. Figures began to move from the booths and rides, lifeless things jerking into motion, their heads twitching, limbs stiff. The dolls from the prize stand crawled across the ground, their porcelain hands scraping against gravel. Sarah ran again, blind through the fog. She could feel the dust from the snow globe still on her hands. It burned now, like frostbite. She tried wiping it on her jeans, but it only smeared darker, spreading across her skin like veins. Her breath came ragged. She reached the main gate, but where the road should have been was only fog and faint lights stretching endlessly in both directions. She turned back. The carnival looked new. Bright banners fluttered. The carousel spun gracefully. Laughter filled the air, real laughter, echoing from unseen crowds. And at the center, near the Ferris wheel, stood a large mirror propped against a wooden frame. Her reflection smiled at her from it. Only it wasn't her anymore. It was dressed in the ringmaster's coat. Sarah stumbled backward from the mirror, heart hammering so hard she could hear it echoing in her ears. The reflection, her face wearing that crimson ringmaster's coat, tilted its head in perfect mimicry, except for the smile. The smile didn't belong to her. It was too wide, too knowing. "Stop," Sarah whispered, stepping back. "This isn't real." But the mirror fogged over from the inside, as if the reflection itself was breathing. And when the mist cleared again, the reflection was gone. Sarah turned in a slow circle. The carnival was alive. Music played from unseen speakers, cheerful and bright, the kind of tune you'd hear at a fairground on a summer evening. Yet there were no people, only mannequins and waxy figures frozen mid-motion. A man at a cotton candy stand turning a crank that spun nothing. Children on the carousel, stiff as dolls. A balloon vendor holding strings that dangled into empty air. The smell of popcorn was thick and sickly sweet. She gagged on it, coughing into her sleeve. "Sarah?" The voice came from somewhere behind her. Soft. Familiar. She turned sharply toward the carousel. The masked woman was there again. The same ringmaster she'd seen before. Except this time the mask was gone. Her face was cracked, her mouth stretched too far, and behind her teeth something black shimmered and pulsed, like ink alive beneath the skin. "You remember us now," the woman said. "Don't you?" Sarah's throat tightened. "No, I've never been here before." The woman smiled, tilting her head. "You think the road just brought you here? People only find Whispering Pines if they've been chosen. The carnival remembers what it's owed." "I didn't take anything," Sarah said, though her hand instinctively touched her pocket, the pocket where the snow globe had been. The fabric was damp, the outline of the object still faintly there, but the glass had vanished completely. In its place, the pocket was filled with black dust that stuck to her skin like soot. The woman took a slow step closer. 67 years. That's how long it's been since someone called us back. The night it all burned. Sarah shook her head, retreating. "You're not real." "Oh, we were real once." The woman's voice softened, almost fond. Families came from miles around. Children laughed, rides spun, music filled the trees. But every smile here came at a price. The owner believed that joy was a currency, one you could steal. Every toy, every trinket, every mirror here was a vessel. A soul pressed into porcelain, glass, or tin, traded for delight. "That's impossible," Sarah said, though her voice wavered. The woman's eyes gleamed. "You felt it when you touched the globe. The cold, the laughter. You set them free, and now they need a place to stay." "What do you mean?" The carousel stopped spinning with a harsh metallic clunk. The children on the horses turned their heads toward her. Their eyes weren't eyes anymore but hollow sockets filled with shifting gray ash. One by one, they began to whisper her name. "Sarah, Sarah." She ran. The music followed, its cheer now warped, slowing and stretching until it was nothing but distorted notes dragging through the fog. The lights flickered. She tripped over a coil of cable and fell hard onto her knees, hands sinking into damp gravel. The smell here was different now, wet earth, smoke, something burnt deep beneath it all. When she looked up, she realized she'd fallen at the base of the Ferris wheel. It towered over her, enormous, its metal bones glistening with moisture. The seats creaked faintly, swinging though there was no wind. As she watched, one car near the top turned with a sound like groaning metal. Someone was inside it. A shape leaned forward against the railing. "Help!" The voice was faint, barely audible over the grinding. "Please." Sarah stared upward. "Who's there?" The figure shifted. A hand waved weakly, thin and pale. "Please, it won't let me down." She hesitated. This could be a trap. But if it wasn't, if someone else was trapped here. She found the operator's booth beside the wheel, its levers rusted and stiff. She gripped one and pulled hard. The gears screamed but didn't move. She tried again. Still nothing. When she looked up again, the figure was gone. The Ferris wheel began to move on its own. It spun slowly at first, then faster, the cabins creaking, the lights flaring brighter until they washed the world in red and yellow. And in every car now sat a figure, men, women, children, all lifeless, all turning their faces toward her as the wheel rotated. The voice came again, this time behind her ear. "Would you like to ride?" She spun and came face to face with the painted man in the striped suit, the one she'd seen before. His painted smile had cracked further, jagged fissures running from his mouth up his cheeks. He reached into his pocket and drew something out. A ticket. It was red, with gold lettering that read, "Admit 1, forever." She stumbled back. "I don't want it." He leaned forward, eyes like glass marbles. "It's not about what you want. It's about what you chose. You took a piece of the carnival. Now the carnival takes a piece of you." He pressed the ticket against her chest. The paper burned through the fabric of her jacket, searing against her skin. She screamed and tore it away, but when she looked down, the flesh beneath glowed faintly with the shape of the same words. "Admit 1. Her vision swam. The world tilted. She stumbled and fell backward, straight into the Ferris wheel car behind her. The safety bar slammed shut on its own. The car jolted upward. At first, she screamed. The movement was too sudden, too powerful. The world dropped away beneath her as the wheel lifted her higher, higher, until she could see the entire carnival spread below like a glowing wound in the fog. Every ride was spinning, every light flickering, the midway crowded with hundreds of shapes that shouldn't move but did. They all turned toward her. Every wax figure, every puppet, every doll. And somewhere beneath the music, she could hear their voices, 1,000 whispering tones, rising and falling in waves. Then she noticed the figure sitting beside her. A little girl, maybe 6 years old, dressed in a faded cotton dress with lace at the sleeves. Her hair was matted, her skin pale. Sarah froze. "Sweetheart, what are you doing up here?" The girl didn't answer. She just lifted a small hand and held out an object. A glass ball, cracked, filled with swirling gray flakes. Sarah's breath caught. "That's..." The girl smiled faintly. "You dropped it." The snow globe. It looked the same as before, except now the scene inside had changed. The carnival was still there, but tiny, lit and spinning. And in one of the miniature Ferris wheel cars sat a small figure, curled up tight. Sarah leaned closer. It was her. The girl tilted her head, voice suddenly low, too deep. "We were lonely. You brought us back." Sarah grabbed the door handle, pulling hard, but it wouldn't budge. The bar across her lap wouldn't move either. The girl's smile widened until it nearly split her cheeks. "You shouldn't have come here, Sarah. The carnival doesn't let go." Sarah slammed her elbow into the window. The glass didn't even crack. She turned back, and the seat beside her was empty. The snow globe sat where the girl had been. The Ferris wheel jerked to a halt at the very top. The car rocked gently. She looked down. The carnival below was fading, dimming, the lights blinking out one by one until only the central mirror remained, glowing faintly. From this height, it looked like a pool of silver. And reflected in that surface wasn't the carnival, but her car, parked on the roadside, headlights dim, door ajar. Someone was sitting inside. Someone who looked exactly like her. The wheel began to descend again, slow and creaking. Sarah gripped the bar until her knuckles whitened, her heart pounding in her throat. As the car neared the ground, she saw that the fog had thinned near the exit. She could make it out. She could run. The car touched down. The latch clicked open. She didn't hesitate. She jumped out and ran toward the gate. The music had gone silent again. The air was utterly still. The moment she crossed the threshold, the lights behind her died all at once. She burst out onto the empty road, gasping. Her car was still there, half buried in mist. She flung the door open, climbed inside, and hit the ignition. The engine roared to life on the first try. Her hands shook as she shifted into drive. The fog parted just enough for the headlights to carve a path forward. She didn't look back. She didn't need to. She just wanted out. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Trees gave way to open fields. The fog lifted completely. She laughed, half sobbing. The road sign ahead read, "Welcome to Coldwater, 3 miles." She kept driving, but when she glanced into the rearview mirror, she froze. There was something on the backseat. A small, cracked snow globe. Inside, the tiny Ferris wheel was turning. And in one of its cars, the miniature Sarah slowly raised her head and smiled. Sarah slammed the brakes. The car screeched to a stop in the middle of the empty road. Her breath came in short, ragged bursts, the sound harsh inside the confined space. The night outside was utterly silent. No wind, no crickets, only the faint hum of the engine and the ticking of the cooling metal. She didn't turn around. She couldn't, but she felt it, the faint vibration of something moving on the back seat. A slow shift, like someone leaning forward. "Don't look," she whispered to herself. "Don't." The radio crackled. Static filled the speakers, then a slow, broken melody seeped through, the same calliope tune from the carnival. Faint, distant, but undeniably real. Her hand shot to the dial, twisting it off. The static didn't stop. The volume knob came off in her fingers. The song grew louder. She turned her head just slightly, enough to see the edge of the back seat in her peripheral vision. The snow globe was there, faintly glowing, ash swirling inside like a storm. The tiny Ferris wheel inside was spinning faster, its little cabins blurring. And then, over the noise, a small tap-tap-tap came from the glass. Sarah froze. A crack ran across the globe's surface, spider webbing outward. Another tap, another crack, and then the glass shattered. The ash poured out in a sudden rush, a thick plume that spread across the seat, the dashboard, the windows. The car filled with it, gray, choking, clinging to her skin and hair. She coughed, trying to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. The handle twisted uselessly. The engine roared, the RPM needle jumping though her foot wasn't on the gas. Headlights flared bright white, blinding her. Through the haze, she saw movement. The passenger seat beside her dipped slightly, as if someone had just sat down. "Please," she whispered, "just let me go." A voice, quiet and broken, answered from right next to her ear. "We can't leave. You're one of us now." She turned. The woman in the ringmaster's coat sat in the passenger seat, smiling faintly, her mask back in place. Only now, from behind the porcelain cracks, Sarah could see eyes glowing faintly red. "You freed us," the woman said softly. "But there always has to be someone to keep the carnival alive." Sarah shook her head violently. No, I'm not staying there. I'm not." The woman leaned close enough that Sarah could smell the burnt sweetness on her breath. "You already are." Sarah blinked. The fog outside thickened instantly, consuming everything. The headlights could no longer cut through it. The road was gone. The dashboard flickered. The radio crackled again, but now instead of static there was laughter, childlike, distant. She looked back at the rearview mirror. The back seat was empty. The world tilted again. The laughter rose, louder, clearer, surrounding her now. She screamed and slammed the door open. This time it gave way, and stumbled out into the mist. The air hit her lungs like ice. The world was gray in every direction. She ran. Her feet pounded over something soft, not asphalt but dirt. Gravel. Grass. And then she heard it again, the faint, slow creak of metal turning. The fog parted. She stood at the entrance to the carnival. The gates loomed open, lights flickering weakly beyond. Her car was gone. The world outside, the road, the trees, the sign, all had vanished. There was only the carnival, waiting. "No," she whispered. "No, I left." The Ferris wheel turned once, slow and deliberate, as if acknowledging her. "Sarah," her name again, whispered by a dozen voices from all directions. And then, out of the fog, she saw people, figures slowly stepping into view. Men, women, children. All wearing faded carnival clothes. Their faces were cracked porcelain, some missing pieces entirely, their eyes hollow but burning faintly from within. They surrounded her silently. The ringmaster emerged from their midst, coat dragging in the dirt. She held the broken snow globe delicately in her hands, now whole again, the cracks sealed. "You see?" she murmured. "Everything that breaks finds its way back. That's the secret of the carnival. It never truly dies." Sarah backed away until she hit something solid. The mirror again, tall, perfect, gleaming. Her reflection stared back, eyes wide, terrified. Behind the reflection stood the painted man in the striped suit. His grin was wrong now, stretching too far, revealing jagged teeth beneath the red paint. He placed his hands on her shoulders, from behind her, and she felt the cold immediately, sinking into her skin. "It's time for your act," he whispered. "Everyone here has a role. The carnival runs on memory." Sarah screamed and spun, but he was gone. Only the mirror remained, and in it, her reflection was smiling again. It wore the ringmaster's coat. Its eyes glowed faintly red. "Don't fight it," the reflection whispered from behind the glass. "You're part of the show now." Sarah shook her head, pounding on the mirror. "I'm not staying here." The reflection laughed. "You already are. You never left." Cracks appeared across the mirror's surface, rippling outward from where her hands struck. But instead of breaking, it seemed to pull her reflection closer. Like liquid, the glass rippled inward. She stepped back, but her shoes were sinking into the ground. The gravel beneath her feet had turned to thick, black mud. The fog thickened again, swirling faster, pulling toward the mirror's center like a whirlpool. The music returned, loud now, triumphant. The carousel spun in perfect rhythm with the rising wind. The Ferris wheel turned faster and faster until the whole structure blurred. The crowd of porcelain figures began to clap slowly, in perfect unison. The ringmaster raised her hand. "Ladies and gentlemen," she called, her voice booming through the fog. "Tonight we welcome a new performer to the Whispering Pines Carnival." The crowd cheered, voices shrill and hollow. Sarah tried to scream, but her voice broke. The mirror was pulling harder now, her reflection's arms reaching out through the glass. Cold fingers brushed her skin. She felt the world twisting, collapsing into itself. "Please," she whispered, "I just wanted to leave." Her reflection's smile softened. "You can. Just take my hand." Desperate, she did. The instant their fingers touched, pain exploded through her body, cold, searing, endless. She tried to pull away, but her arm was already inside the mirror. Then her shoulder. Then her chest. Her reflection's grin widened as it pulled her fully in. The world flipped inside out. And then there was silence. When she opened her eyes, she was standing under the carnival lights again. The air was clear. The rides were still. The booths empty. For a long moment, she didn't move. Everything looked normal. Dead again. Was it a dream? She whispered. Her voice sounded wrong. Too smooth. Too hollow. She looked down. Her hands were pale. Almost porcelain. Cracks ran faintly along her knuckles, filled with a soft red glow. Her reflection in the mirror looked back at her, identical except for one thing. It was breathing. And smiling. Behind her, faint music started up again. The carnival lights flickered to life one by one, bright and colorful, chasing the darkness away. Voices rose in laughter. A banner unfurled above the gate, the paint freshly red. Whispering Pines Carnival, Grand Reopening. The mirror rippled once. Inside it, a small figure stood on the roadside, staring into the fog. A woman by her car, frightened, curious. She looked just like Sarah. Hours later, a police cruiser rolled down Route 19 toward Coldwater. The fog was thick, headlights cutting through in narrow beams. "Pull over a second," said the deputy. "You see that?" The driver slowed. Through the mist, the edge of a rusted sign appeared. Whispering Pines Carnival, Grand Reopening. The deputy frowned. "That's new. Wasn't here last month." The driver shrugged. "Probably one of those pop-up fairs. Looks dead, though." He turned the car back onto the road. The sign vanished in the rearview mirror as the fog closed behind them. If either man had looked closer, they might have noticed something faintly glimmering on the side of the road, half buried in the grass. A small glass snow globe. Inside it, the miniature carnival gleamed, lights flickering in tiny perfect color. The Ferris wheel turned slowly, and in the reflection of its curved glass, a woman in a crimson ringmaster's coat smiled endlessly at the stars. For more stories, like and subscribe.